Steve, it's been a good week or so, 2 good wins, 2 late wins as well. How do you, I know 7 days ago you effectively ruled Hull out of the automatic promotion race. Has your perception of that changed at all?
No, not really. I think we've given ourselves too much to do. In respect to that, you never give up the hope, but you know, when you see the form that the 3 teams are in above us and the run of form that all of them have had, then you would find it very difficult for 2 of those to collapse. So, you know, we have to be realistic that, you know, it's going to take an almighty collapse by them. But we'll keep going. We've won a couple of games and hopefully that's given us the bit of form back, and which is important because we've now cemented our place in the playoffs. And I think that's vitally important, that the team who goes in with a bit of momentum, as we've always seen, always does pretty well. So I think that's vitally important. We're disappointed that we've had a run of form at the wrong time. And unfortunately couldn't get out quick enough. But we've had back-to-back wins and scored 2 in the last minute, and hopefully that'll turn us around a bit.
The fixture list is quirky though, isn't it? I mean, admittedly you probably have to win all 4 of the remaining games, but you know all the while that the final game of the season sees Middlesbrough play Brighton, you've got a game in hand on them as well. It could happen. It
could happen. I mean, we've seen almighty twists. It would be in the mother of all twists, I would have to say, but you know, you can't, we're never going to give it up, but we have to be realistic that, you know, with the form of the 3 teams who are going for automatic anyway, you know, then, you know, it would be, as I said, an almighty collapse by one of them or 2 of them to give us a chance. And you're right, we have to win the 4, which we're capable of. And the disappointment thing was when you do look, anyway, and there's never really anything easy on paper, as we've seen in this division so often. You know, our running was okay. You know, the last 5-6 games of the season, you're looking at them thinking, well, 4 of them are at home against mid-table opposition. So, and in that respect, we're a bit disappointed that we're not 3 or 4 points closer, which would have been really interesting.
From your perspective then, is it equally, if not more so important, that you do appear to have turned it round and are coming back into form with the playoffs in mind?
Well, I mean, with the last 3 games, we've took 7 points out of 9, which is more like us again. That's the sort of form which we were in until the 6 or 7 weeks we had where, you know, it felt a bit for us. But, you know, we've got to still build on the momentum, go into the playoffs, and we know we're capable. If we have to go into the playoffs, as I've said many, many times, we've got to enjoy that. It's arguably, shouldn't say that arguably, Chris Evans has just said on the radio, it's annoying. Arguably, it's the best way to go up, day out at Wembley and win a semi-final and go through the playoffs. But you'd rather avoid it, of course. But if that's the way we have to do it, then so be it.
Scoring late goals and winning games in the fashion you have, what's that done for the belief in that dressing room?
Well, I think it's important. I mean, you know, the win against Wolverhampton where Snoddy bends one in and a great free kick was, you know, great for everybody. You could see the relief on everybody's face that, you know, Snoddy's produced a bit of magic. And I thought we were very, very good against Reading again. And I think that's important. I think it's important that we stay, as I said, with the momentum that you need to go and be successful in the playoffs. So we'll not give up hope that we can still do it, but let's keep the form going. So when we do play in the playoffs, then we'll give ourselves the best opportunity.
I've got no doubt you'll have noticed as well this week there's been several decisions, penalties given for grappling in the penalty area. Is that that's something you've brought to the attention of the players? Because quite clearly it's something that the officials have put a focus on.
Well, I think it's up to the, you know, the referees and everybody concerned with the game to set out a directive at the start of the season. I don't think you can bring it in now because we see it week in and week out. What's not a penalty? What is a penalty? I think if we stop it straight away by the start of next season and say, look, if the referee sees anybody grappling in the box, it's something which didn't quite happen 15, 20 years ago, but always, in my opinion, always seemed to be, you know, when you played in Europe or whatever, it was part and parcel of it. I think that's where it's crept in from. And to be fair, the referees have got a really difficult job. Some of the decisions last week, I know John Moss has had a lot of criticism, but there was so many times that they were both grappling each other. I mean, they have their arms around their necks and pulling them over, and to try and make a decision on it would be very difficult for any referee. And I think a directive's got to come out, but it is one of them grey areas which I think we all need to get together and try and sort out if we can.
At this stage of the season, is it a problem for you as a manager and the players take to the field if all of a sudden there is a more intense spot?
Well, we've mentioned it to the defenders before that we can't be seen to be grappling with people and pulling people over, and eventually you're going to get caught with it if that's what you keep doing. And unfortunately, as I said, we keep seeing it week in and week out, and some referees point to the spot straight away, and then there's 3-4 other instances after that where you think, well, that's just as bad as what you've given the penalty for. It's a real difficult area for all referees, so I think we need a bit of clarity to give them a hand, because in some situations with some referees you can get away with it, others they turn a blind eye, and others obviously don't.
Thank you.
Well, best of luck next season when they change the denying goal scoring opportunities, and then the different referees will be giving different decisions on red and yellow, so prepare yourself for that one.
Absolutely, that's another one.
What's your team news for this game?
Everybody's okay, so it's a bit too early for Dawson, but we hope that he can resume training maybe Monday or Tuesday of next week. There's a doubt about Aluko. He hurt his calf yesterday. Everybody else seems to be okay.
Does that put Aluko out, do you think? Because he was.
I'll see how he is today. He's been uncomfortable. He took a whack against Bristol City and hasn't been comfortable with it. So we'll see how he is today. He was sore yesterday. We'll see how he is today.
Are you tempted to sort of, if you can, keep the same 11 starting players that brought you victory?
Well, it's always the easy option, and we've been striving over the last few weeks to try and find a settled team. And when you do lose a bit of form, we've brought 3 or 4 and changed the system at Huddersfield, for example, and changed to 3 or 4 positions. The one thing I'm looking to try and do now is we've got to still win the games. Don't worry about that, but we've got to, it's a time where we can. For instance, the other day, I just thought Jake Livermore, for example, he'd played 30 games on the spin or something like that since September. So let him have a few days off. The same with Diarmy's the same, Diarmy's the same, got a bit of a sore calf. We let him have a week off. And so, all of that is in mind for getting ready for, obviously, the playoffs, if that's the route we have to go down in a couple of weeks.
And I guess that's your big dilemma, isn't it, for picking this team? Jake to come back, Tom to stay in, because Tom's done right for you, hasn't
whatever team I pick at the moment seems to be criticised. That's how far it's got, which is always difficult. But as I've said repeatedly, we've got a really decent squad where if I asked everybody, they might always have a different opinion. And that's the difficulty of always picking a side. You leave yourself open, whatever you do, if the result doesn't go your way. So, I'll pick a team which I'm convinced they'll win the match tomorrow. Always I try and pick a team to win a match, and that'll not change tomorrow.
And how has your mindset changed after qualifying for the playoffs and that situation taking care of itself?
Well, at the start of this season, I said how difficult it's going to be for everybody concerned. And make no mistake, it has been very difficult from a team that gets relegated with the doom and gloom that surrounds it. We're disappointed enormously that we're not in the shake-up really now, with really 4 games to go for us, that we're not really in it. We're 3-4 points adrift, which is the disappointing thing. I would hoped that would be within striking distance of, if somebody slipped up. Unfortunately, we had that little loss of form at the wrong time. We had a bad 6 weeks, so we can't deny that, and that looks as if it's cost us automatic promotion because we haven't got enough time to fix it. Brighton's was November, December. Burnley got off to a difficult start. All of them teams have, throughout the season, had a dip in form or a loss of form, or whatever you want to call it, or a lack of results. And unfortunately, ours come at the wrong time. Thankfully, we've got ourselves in the playoffs. We've still never given up hope. We're still within striking distance of getting up. That's always been the aim. And we give ourselves no standing chance because we're now in the playoffs. And we know that we're capable of winning the two-legged semi-final, and we're capable of winning at Wembley. So, all to play for. So it should be exciting times to look forward to. Unfortunately, it doesn't feel like that, but It should be. We should be delighted that we're in the playoffs. Many big club in this division would be delighted with it. So we've got to grasp that and enjoy the challenge ahead.
You talked about the loss of form in, well, really March, but you also had a little blip earlier when you lost at Leeds and at Rotherham and Preston. And of course now you play Leeds again in this reverse fixture, so what threat do they pose to you, do you think?
Well, in my experience with the Championship, every team poses a threat to you because there's no gulf. In the Premiership, sometimes you can have a gulf in class. You know, you get Man City on a bad day, you know, and when they're playing well, then they can beat you out of sight. But there's no real gulf of class for me in the Championship. It's a war of attrition. There's far too many games, play cup games, so that becomes a leveller. And the one thing it is genuinely so honest. It's so honest that you have to be at your best or somewhere near your best to win a game in this league. And the games that you've picked out were last Christmas, where 2-3 times, including Leeds, first half in particular, second half we were much better. We weren't at it, and you get your backsides kicked. And I think we've seen that throughout the division, that you can any given day, for example, the last time Middlesbrough lost, they lost to Charlton, who were relegated Tuesday night. That was only a month ago. That they've beaten Middlesbrough, who the last team to beat them. So nothing's a given. You have to find a way of winning in this division, and you have to be resilient. And unfortunately, there's times when, of course, you're not that, and you get beat.
And you use the word there, attritional. Will it be an attritional game tomorrow, the Leeds United and Hull City coming together, do you think?
Well, I hope it's I mean, they've filled out their end. They're coming in their thousands again, which is quite remarkable. So I hope it's not that. I hope it's a really good game. We've played against them early in the season where they beat us hands down after our first half showing. So we owe them one. So always when Leeds comes to town in the Championship, then it's a big game for everybody, and no more so than tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Steve, can I just clarify on Diarra, is he training?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's training. I'll see how he goes today.
And Livermore, you obviously took the decision to rest him on Tuesday. Does he come back in tomorrow?
I'll make that decision tomorrow.
Okay. You spoke about the atmosphere and the disappointment against Wolves. Does Leeds make it the perfect game because there'll be a common unity against your rivals, wouldn't there?
Well, I look at it that, you know, they're bringing with them, what, 3,500? 2,500, which always when they come to town, it's a big game. You know, any time at Leeds, they've got a magnificent following, haven't they? And they'll bring a big atmosphere to the stadium and a local Yorkshire derby, so all to play for.
Do you sense the mood lifting around the club in the last?
The players, I could say after Snoddy scored the winner, that all of a sudden there's a weight off their shoulders. And as I said to everybody concerned, you know, the mighty Barcelona won four games, lost 3 in the league, knocked out the cup, who were the best team in the world. It happens. But that's football. At the wrong time, we had a bad 5-6 weeks, wherever it was, where we were going very nicely. With 13-14 games to go, we're sitting there, we think, with a double handful. And then all of a sudden, you know, we didn't beat MK Dons at home, we didn't beat Notts Forest, we go to Birmingham, play really well, didn't quite go for us, go to Middlesbrough, concede in the last minute. All of them things conspired against us. And we had to find a way through it. Since the last 3 games, we've scored in the last minute against Huddersfield to rescue something. Scored in the last minute against Wolves. And then for me, we were convincing winners the other night at Reading.
Can we expect a 7-1 anytime soon on the Barcelona?
I wouldn't have thought so, but winning eluded the best team on the planet. And as I said, that can happen, which has made the Spanish league all the more interesting, shall we say, because 2 weeks ago it was a given that Barcelona will win it. All of a sudden, it's in the melting pot.
I'll just ask you about one individual who's come back in the last couple of games. Is Chuba. He was on the periphery for a long time. Has he got a big role to play in
Well, he's only a young lad, Phil. He's only a young lad with a lot to learn, and he had a good start to it. I thought for a while that he needed to come out and have a look at it and realise what the game's all about. I think coming away from it and being left out has helped him. I think he's got a big future as long as he keeps on learning, and I think the player what he is now compared to where he was, and the same goes for Isaac Hayden, but they're young lads learning their trade, and I think it was vitally important that we take him out because he had played 19, 20 times or whatever it is, maybe north of that, but at that particular time I just felt he was flat and needed to come away from it and take a break. He's come back and looks as if he's got a new lease of life again, which is good to see.